What did he say? Oh, yeah. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Silver Screen Slam, where we praise those wonderful moving pictures we have all enjoyed over the past century. I'm your host with much flavor, Jake Brown, here to tell you that it's Friday night, I feel all right, and the party's here on the west side. So come join me each episode as we explore movies of the past and present and discuss what we love, hate, and appreciate about them. After each episode, we will ask you to voice your own opinion about upcoming movies we delve into via our social media outlets at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, this is how we do it. During each episode, we will discuss a movie that we feel deserves considerable praise for bringing many positive artistic elements to the screen. This may be a new release, a not-so-new release, or even one of the classics. In our previous episode, we explored 2001's Donnie Darko, declaring it a well-written work, albeit slightly confusing considering its initial context. Most of all, we praised its cleverly interwoven plot, interesting contrasted characters, and smart, bold musical choice that definitely paid off in the end. In this episode, we'll explore a worthy movie just released in theaters, the code-cracking Alan Turing biopic, The Imitation Game, directed by Morton Tildum. But before we go get paid, let's get our groove on with some extras. The Grand 16 Theater in Panama City Beach currently has a lineup of classic films releasing on its screens, which have been showing throughout the month of February and will continue to show through March. The current lineup sees the 1987 Rob Reiner fantasy tale The Princess Bride playing on Tuesday and Wednesday, March 3rd and 4th, with the following 3 Tuesdays and Wednesdays respectively showing other great movies, such as 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, 1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the 1972 Francis Ford Coppola masterpiece, The Godfather. I can't begin to express my excitement when a local cinema decides to show great films of the past. I wish more theaters would do so more often. After all, what better way to show your theater's appreciation for the art of the big screen than to show the former greats that graced its surface? And the term great doesn't even do these films justice. The Princess Bride has it all. We're talking adventure, romance, sword fighting, Billy Crystal, giants, not giants, men's fingers that go all the way to 11. This is a fantasy epic every family should see. Like, a lot. But not just The Princess Bride. I mean, they're showing Raiders of the Lost Ark. For those of you who weren't fortunate enough to be babysat by the famous whip-cracking archaeologist, Indiana Jones' Raiders of the Lost Ark throws you into a world full of fast-paced adventure and deadly puzzles at every turn, and it makes you never want to leave. Unless, of course, there happen to be snakes involved. I hate snakes. And finally, The Godfather is about a fictional crime family living in New York in the 40s and 50s, and has been hailed by many as the greatest film of all time. Having watched it again myself, I honestly don't think I can quite agree with such a claim, but that won't stop me from heading out to see it on the silver screen for the first time. Oh, and I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but I've never actually seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But I imagine it's quite the flick. Surely better than at least half of what's come out during the past 20 years or so. And you can bet I'll be seeing it as well. Now that we've heard what the party has to say, let's get right into our featured flick of the episode, the recently released Alan Turing biopic, The Imitation Game. The Imitation Game was directed by Norwegian filmmaker Morton Tildum and stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Keira Knightley, and my boy Mark Strong. The film follows the life of the now famous late computer scientist and mathematician Alan Turing as he attempts to help defeat Nazi Germany during World War II by intercepting their communications on a daily basis. After solving an expert puzzle presented to him by British secret intelligence, Turing is told of a powerful code encryption machine called Enigma, which keeps all primary German communication hidden from the Allies. Enigma's decryption code is changed on a daily basis, making the odds completely against the Allies in attempting to crack it. Throughout the story, it is also revealed that Turing is a homosexual man and that he avoids knowledge of this becoming public, as homosexuality has been criminalized in mid-20th century Britain. The film won an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay, and rightfully so. Let's watch a quick clip from the film.
That's what you're doing here, the top secret program at Bletchley. You're trying to break the German Enigma machine.
What makes you think that?
It's the greatest encryption device in history, and the Germans use it for all major communications. If the Allies broke Enigma, well, it would turn into a very short war indeed. Of course, that's what you're working on. But you also haven't got anywhere with it. If you had, you wouldn't be hiring cryptographers out of university. You need me a lot more than I need you. I like solving problems, Commander. And Enigma is the most difficult problem in the world.
No, Enigma isn't difficult, it's impossible. The Americans, the Russians, the French, the Germans, everyone thinks Enigma is unbreakable.
Good. Let me try, and we'll know for sure, won't we?
Okay, so here's the deal. I love Benji Dip Cumberbatch. He is easily one of my favorite actors out there today. So going into this film, I can't help but remain a little biased. But after actually seeing it in theaters, I now know that no matter what preconceptions I brought to the table, this film is on another level of amazing. It packs a lot of punch for me when it comes to movies, having a great story, great acting, great music. Now, regarding the story, I'm going to quickly profess ignorance by stating up front that before watching The Imitation Game, I had no idea what an Enigma machine was. The only thing that had ever come to my mind when hearing the word Enigma was hey-ya ha o-I-ya o-ah o-ho-ya o-I-ya. But let us return from the innocence of one of the best songs of all time by reminding ourselves just how bittersweet this movie can be. You have the real-life character of Alan Turing, one of the best minds in history, battling the evil forces of the 30s and 40s, Nazi Germany. And he does so with his pure intellect, all the while developing a romantic relationship of sorts with the film's female lead and fellow codecracker Joan Clark, played by Keira Knightley. Clark pleasantly challenges Turing's arrogant, solitary personality with a calmer, more welcoming one, and helps him to realize the importance of strong social qualities in a person. And it isn't just the characters. The film's story centers on a truly fascinating concept, that of the utilization of mathematics to decrypt complex codes. It brings to the forefront Turing's interest in ciphers and other decryption techniques and shows us the beauty of such an intricate encryption machine as Enigma. Only after some brief hesitation does the story jump right into Turing's own machine. Realizing that pens, papers, and brains can only accomplish so much, Turing begins to convince the British powers that be that what they really need to defeat a complex machine is another complex machine. With help from them, he begins work in isolation on a machine that will not only break the Enigma code, but also break any code imaginable instantaneously, which we can clearly see has paved the way for our modern computers today. But while going through the internal and external difficulties of building such a device, Turing is also confronted by the increasing fear of being discovered as a homosexual man living in a society with very anti-homosexual sentiments. The film explores important experiences in Alan Turing's youth, his involvement in Enigma's breaking, and his troubles with conservative societal views following the war. So what was good about this movie? In addition to the previously mentioned aspects of the story and characters, the film keeps a good foothold in time while also stepping out of chronological order here and there. It reminds us of the significance of Turing's loves growing up while also keeping us aware of where society has thrown this war hero in his future. But what kept popping off the screen more than anything for me was the wonderful musical score combined with the phenomenal acting of Brimber Drip Crumpy Patch and the rest of the cast. Alexandre Desplat's musical touch, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, whisks you through the story without argument. The speedy piano notes combined with the beautiful string and brass instruments really are the perfect companions to a story about Enigma and code cracking in general. They almost drop you right into Turing's fast-paced mind, and they don't let up until the very end. I would highly recommend purchasing this album immediately and then stating, "Jake, you were so right, I'll listen to everything you have to say forever." Speaking of being right about everything, Build-A-Bear Chowderhatch's performance was easily second to none. He really does pull you right into his character. Alongside Crimper Pelch's perfect character execution, Keira Knightley actually shines a lot more than I felt she has in the past. She does a fantastic job of complementing Cradle Snitch's character, making you feel all the more for him yourself. Actors Charles Dance and Mark Strong also work well with Cattle Patty, playing Turing's conflicting authorities while working on cracking Enigma. However, none of them impress quite like Brazen Crack Crammy Cheeks, showing us that there really is only one Belgian derp Crondle Toad out there, and his name is Benedict Cumberbatch. So, sure, there's a lot to be praised about The Imitation Game, but it also has its downside. Really only one thing I can think of, and that is the slight confusion about its message. The film takes great effort to guide its audience through the primary task for Alan Turing in deciphering Enigma's code, while mildly alluding to the issue of homosexuality during that time. But then at the very end of the story, the writers seem to abruptly shift the main focus of the movie to Turing's sexuality itself, as if that were now the central message of the film. While I personally feel it is a very good thing in art to express messages about the importance of social progress in society, I think the writers could have at least executed such a message a little better, maybe by focusing on it a little more throughout other parts of the film so as not to surprise their audience at the very end. It really threw me off, even though by that point in the movie I was covered in tears from getting something caught in my eye. As a reminder, at this point in the show, we like to turn things over to our loyal viewers regarding the previously announced movie for this episode. But considering we're still getting ramped up with the show, or if we simply don't have any comments on this episode's film, we'll go ahead and leave this where it is. If you plan on watching The Imitation Game, there are also other great movies about the lives and struggles of great scientists that we suggest viewing. Last year's The Theory of Everything focused on the life of theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking. It was directed by James Marsh and starred Eddie Redmayne, Felicity Jones, and Professor Lupin himself, David Thewlis. We highly recommend The Theory of Everything, and Professor Hawking himself has repeatedly praised the movie as well, stating of actor Redmayne, "At times I thought he was me." Redmayne won an Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role for his portrayal of Hawking, and it's easy to see why. Another great film that really hasn't received enough praise was 2008's Einstein and Eddington, which was directed by Philip Martin and starred Andy Serkis as Albert Einstein and the doctor himself, David Tennant, as Arthur Eddington. The film follows the two scientists as the British Eddington attempts to prove correct the German Einstein's famous theory of general relativity during the First World War while both countries are against each other. It's a great film that shows us the wonder of science and teaches us that fundamental questions about our universe should have no political boundaries. It should also be noted that the film was written by Peter Moffat, who wrote a movie about Stephen Hawking that starred Benedict Cumberbatch. What? We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Silver Screen Slam. Join us next episode when we'll be checking out the 2004 semi-surreal dream date epic Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, directed by Michel Gondry and starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. If you have anything you'd like to voice about next episode's film, or if you enjoy the show in general, feel free to drop us a line on our social media outlets at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jake Brown, asking you to tip up your cup, throw your hands up, and get outside more and watch some movies. Thank you. That coffee's going through me. All right, whenever you're ready. Alrighty, Roo. Alrighty, Roo. Hey, I, whoa, yeah.